Good afternoon, everyone, from Dunrovin Ranch in Lolo, Montana. It's a beautiful sunny fall afternoon, and I've got magpies on my mind. And there's a good reason for having magpies on our mind this week because many of you may have noticed that a broken egg appeared on the top of the nest. And that didn't just fall from the sky. One of our little fine feathered friends found it on the side of the nest and moved it up. And let me just talk a little bit about magpies, and we'll get to that specific incident in a moment. First, I think I have forgotten to turn off my phone. So I'm going to turn off my phone so that we are not rudely interrupted. So hang on here while I do that. Okay, now we're ready to go. All right. So magpies. Truth is, I love magpies. And one of the things that really excited me about magpies is the fact that I found them when I moved to Kodiak, Alaska. And I want you to take a look at this distribution of the black-billed magpies, which are really ubiquitous throughout the western states. They're found in the prairies and in the fields, and you'll notice that in the lower 48 they are not found on the coast. And I had lived in Washington State and had traveled all along the coast of Washington, Oregon, and California, and I never saw any magpies. I really didn't think that magpies occurred on the coast. So when I moved to Kodiak, Alaska, it was a kind of a tumultuous time in my life. I was just getting divorced. I had completed graduate school. I was starting my first new job, and I moved to a place where I knew nobody. And a very different place, very different place. Kodiak's a gorgeous place, and someday I will give you a guided tour of Kodiak and my life there because I had a lot of fun and learned a lot, and it's a gorgeous place. But to my great surprise, I went out to the beaches in Kodiak, and there were magpies, and I thought, oh, how delightful. A little bit of home right here in Kodiak, and it made me feel so much more welcome and so much more, I don't know, at home seeing that little magpie. So magpies, they're a member of the Corvidae family, which also includes ravens and crows and jays, and they're known to be one of the smartest groups of birds in the world. They've done a lot of research with crows and ravens and magpies, and these are the thinking birds. They're at the top of the bird chain, if you want to think of it that way, in terms of their intelligence. So let's talk about what magpies eat. Well, they'll eat almost anything. They are scavengers. They are opportunists. They'll take insects and small rodents. They'll gather grain and berries. And of course, they're always looking for carrion. And that's one of the reasons they're easy to attract to our bird feeders, because we have suet up there and they come right in for that. But the other things that they do, they will steal other birds' eggs, and they've even been known to steal the chicks and eat them. So they're kind of a ubiquitous bird, and in some ways people don't like them because they do harass other birds and take their eggs. But that's kind of their little niche in life. And one of the most distinctive characteristics about magpies is their tails are nearly as long as their body. And you can see this in all of these photos here that, you really have to pull the camera lens back to get the whole bird because the tail is so darn long. And I don't know if many of you who have been watching for a number of years, but several years ago, we had a magpie show up at the nest that lacked a tail. It had no tail at all. And yet it could fly. And I remember it came several times to the bird feeders. So we saw it, over the course of the winter. I haven't seen it since, but it clearly was surviving, at least at that time. Okay. So their tails are beautiful. And, you have to look closely or in just the right light to see that these tails are anything but black. They are, in fact, an iridescent combination of blues and greens and even purples. If you look at this, these close-up photos that I was able to get of magpies on the nest, you can see that their tail feathers there's a gradation from blue, green, and clear down into purple and blue again at the very tips. They're just gorgeous birds. And they tend to hang out together. A group of magpies is commonly called a parliament, and many of us are accustomed to, when we see one of the bird feeders, we expect to see more coming in its wake. They're very gregarious and they love to hang out with one another. So I've put together some short videos here, and the first one I'm going to show you is indeed how that egg got up to the top of the nest this last week. We had a magpie come and find it and eat what was inside. It's a bit unusual to see a solitary magpie. There was another one just prior to this bird arriving, and he kind of shooed him off. You can see him eating something there. You can't see exactly what he's eating, but you'll see it in a moment. You can see little bits coming into his beak there. And hammering a little bit, almost like a woodpecker would, jabbing at it. You can hear it pound on the egg, cracking it open. Now, this was one of 3 eggs that Harriet had laid, and Swoop had rolled out of the nest. And remember, the reason we called our osprey chick this year Lucky was because indeed that was the 3rd egg that she had laid. He moved it out of the nest and she moved it back in. So she ended up incubating 2 eggs, but only one of them hatched. She'd laid 4. She rolled number 3 back in and had another one. So she had 4 eggs total. There's a very distinctive cry of the magpie. So I think this might have been egg number 1. Not sure. I think so. And you can see how he's opened it up and still eats what's inside. Now it's going to be really interesting when James goes up this week on Wednesday to do our maintenance for the camera, to retrieve this egg, which has been opened. And I think there's still an intact egg up there on the side facing the camera. So James will have to look for that and see if he can't retrieve it in whole. But you saw right there that there was something liquid that came out of that egg. That probably had been a fertile egg. Very distinctive cry from the magpie. They're very vocal. It'll reappear here in a moment. Okay, now you can just see the top of the next egg that this magpie is going to eat, and he's going to start banging on it. I think that might have been egg 4 that ended up over there. And again, you can hear it click on it, breaking it open. So James, when you go up there on Wednesday, let's be sure to look at both of these eggs and see if we can't find the third one. This is very interesting to me. What's been left inside these eggs, and if the other one's still intact on the side of the nest. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next little film, which shows the magpies visiting 2 of our horses. And you're going to notice that the magpie jumps right on it and actually starts pecking at the mane and other parts of the horse's body. And this habit of looking for insects on livestock has gotten the magpies into a considerable amount of trouble with livestock growers in the Western United States and Canada. There used to be bounties in most of the states and the western provinces of Canada for magpies because they felt that they were pecking livestock to death. And indeed, there have been reported and confirmed cases of horses and sheep and other animals that had open sores on their backs or on their manes, and that were exacerbated for sure by the magpies coming and pecking at the open wounds. But it's really something of a myth that they are responsible for lots of deaths of livestock. But that got them in trouble and really depleted the total number of magpies in the Western North America in the early 1800s, including up until the 1940s. There were bounties for magpies in places like Idaho, and other places. Okay, then here I wanted to show you a little gathering of magpies on the beach this last winter. And this is kind of a fun little video because you'll see several of them take a bath. And if you watch carefully, you'll see those iridescent colors just sort of flash as they are bathing. They're also looking in the rocks for insects and various other things to eat. And as I said, they often come in groups. You can see the flashes of green. Really pretty birds. They often say that they're wearing a tuxedo because of the black and white markings, particularly the white on the front and then the black and the kind of long tails like a tuxedo. You can see it looking for insects or anything hiding underneath the leaves, even moving some rocks. This was a real beach party for this group of magpies this last January, I think. So the water had to have been cold. Okay, so now the last video that I want to show you is them mobbing an eagle. A bald eagle captured something and was eating it on the beach, and of course that just attracted the magpies. Again, this was last winter. And you'll see them dart in and try to get something. Very typical behavior for magpies. They try to sneak in kind of sideways to get a bite. The eagle doesn't seem all that perturbed, not very intimidated, maybe bothered like we are with flies. Now, I wonder what frightened them all off like that all of a sudden. Certainly didn't frighten the eagle off. And here they come back. And even though the eagle took much of what he had with him, he left some scraps on the ground, which of course was just what the magpies were looking for. So These are just really interesting, gregarious, smart animals. And I'd like to direct you to a website called Cool Green Science. Just look up Magpies, Murder, Mischief, and Myth. And of course, the murder is they indeed are a murdering birds. They will kill little chicks. They will eat whatever they can find, and they will kill, even though they're not considered birds of prey, which I find very interesting. Lots of birds that do eat other animals, heron and things of that nature, are not considered birds of prey, but they do eat animals and other birds and eggs. And then this whole concept of being affiliated with, let me see if I can get to that website here. I had it up on my, I thought I had it on one of my tabs here. I guess I'm not going to find it. Okay. At any rate, I suggest you go to this lovely website. You'll get some more information about magpies and the myths that have grown up around them, because they do land on livestock, and that has caused a lot of conflict between humans and magpies. I've got my eye here on the chat if anybody would like to make a comment or ask a question. I'm no magpie expert by any means, but they're a real welcome sight around here at Dunrovin. I quite enjoy them. And I think some of you may remember that several years ago we had magpies nesting in one of our fir trees, and one of the little guys fell out, and Mackenzie Cole was here to rescue it and put it back in the tree where its parents were. So I know they do nest around here, and it really would be fun to see if we could find a nest and get it in front of a web camera. I'm not sure that's going to be possible, but it sure would be fun. Well, with that, I will say adieu unless anybody has anything else to say. Yes, James, magpies do eat the suet on the feeders, but I've never seen them eat the fruit. I've seen them eat some seeds, but not the fruit. I've never seen them actually go for the fruit, but the suet really brings them in. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing my love of magpies with me. And I'll be back next week with, another bird of interest to Dunrovin. We certainly have lots of them. So don't hesitate to put some comments in the chat if there's a particular species of bird you'd like to see us focus on. We've got lots of videos and lots of photos of all kinds of different birds. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you for joining us for our Monday social, and we'll see you again. Goodbye.